Hello everyone, this is part 13 of What If Naruto Had the Power to Control Vectors, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. The ceiling was complete. Fu fell to the ground like a ragdoll. The Akatsuki looked at Naruto strangely before they stopped sending their thoughts and disappeared one by one. Eventually they all left and Naruto was left alone. The Akatsuki were probably shocked that Naruto hadn't done anything. Little did they know he had. Naruto jumped down next to Fu. "Alright, get up," Naruto said, shaking her awake. Fu slowly opened her eyes and letting them focusing on Naruto. "How am I alive?" Fu said weakly. "I told you I wouldn't let you die," Naruto said, grabbing Fu and lifting her up to her feet. She might be a strong ninja, but she had been trapped for 3 days without food or water and Naruto was sure it wasn't a very pleasant experience. "I know you said you would, but I thought you were just lying," Fu said, trying to stand up on her own without using Naruto as a support. "You need to stop comparing me to those idiots in Itachi. I have way more class than them, plus I need more powerful people on my side," Naruto said. "I think you might be overestimating me. Even if I'm alive I can feel that I'm not a Jinchuriki anymore," Fu said, managing to stay on her feet and following Naruto out of the cave. "I know, it wouldn't be very convincing if the Akatsuki didn't get their tailed beast, but you're still a good ninja even without you little helper," Naruto said, sounding like tricking the Akatsuki had been a boring task. "So how did you save me?" Fu asked. "It wasn't that hard, although I'm sure if any of the other Akatsuki members had actually been in the room they would have noticed," Naruto said. "All I did was use my vector control to separate your regular chakra from the demonic and then only let the demonic chakra out of your body. But even if you did that I still should have died," Fu said, shocked at how easy Naruto made that sound. "Well, I did control all your internal functions and adjusted them to stable levels. That was the hard part. Do you know how many things I had to keep track of? Blood flow, heartbeat, breathing, chakra flow, just to name some of the more important ones." "Thank you," Fu said, blushing a bit from hearing all Naruto had done for her. "No need, you'll repay me soon enough," Naruto said, looking up into the sky like he expected something to come down and greet him. "What do I need to do?" "I'll do anything," Fu said, ready to repay her savor, completely ignore that he was the one who had captured in the first place, but she would rather be with him anyways. "You won't have to do much, just help me with a plan." Naruto spent the rest of the day explaining what Fu and some guy named Sugetsu were going to do. Fu would never forget that. Naruto had taken her away from Taki, and while she thought the best way to go about things was to try and get the village to like her, she realized now that it would never have happened. She wouldn't deny it, she had probably fallen in love with Naruto and was eager for this all to be over so she could spend more time with him. Fu, however, was not a useless fangirl that would follow him like a lost puppy. In fact, Fu had some problems with this plan. Sure, Fu knew it would make him stronger, incredibly so, but a god. Fu thought Naruto might be a little full of himself, but then again Naruto hadn't really explained what would happen when all he got the parts he needed. When Fu had asked him, he just reposed with, "Once I have the tailed beast and what you two will be getting from the leaf, my vector control will ascend it to another level, a godly level." Fu didn't know how the tailed beasts would make Naruto's vector control any more power. Hell, Fu didn't know how his vector control could get any stronger. But that was only on the tailed beast end. Fu knew exactly how the item they were getting would help Naruto. "We're here," Sugetsu said, looking at a sewer grate. "Then let's get to work," Fu said with a lovely smile. On the other side of the village, metal clashed with sparks jumping from every impact. Mito was having problems getting close to Minima as her chains would keep pushing her away, and her long-range lighting jutsus didn't help since they would just charge Minima's chains. "Is this what you want, Mito, for us to be fighting? Just let me make it up to you." Naruto's changed, but Naruto never will. "Shut up, you don't know anything," Mito yelled, blocking one of Minima's chains. "You can't deny it, if you stay with Naruto you'll end up as rotten and evil as he is," Minima said, focusing her energy to make her chains strike faster. You're the rotten ones, Mito yelled, breaking through Minima's wall of chains and getting in close. Minim ducked down to avoid Mito's swords and hit her in the stomach. Her doing so caused to Mito leaned over in pain and cut Minima on both her shoulders as her swords were brought down. Minima backed away to keep her arms from getting cut off. Was it really that bad? Would you still rather take Naruto over us? Minima yelled. Why wouldn't I? Mito yelled, her eyes starting to tear up, and Minima could see the little girl she was. The fact was Mito was still a kid who should be going on C-rank missions with her friends, not in the middle of a battlefield fighting her sister. She had her childhood robbed from her, and as much as Minima would like to blame Naruto, she knew that she was just as at fault. Damn it. It's the older sister's job to protect the younger one. Minima said, just loud enough for Mito to hear. We shouldn't be doing this, we're family. Minima yelled, tears running down her own face. Well, it's Naruto's job too. And he did it way better than you. Metal clashed once again in a fury of emotion. He's not protecting you, he's using you to further his own crazy plan. Minima said, sweat dripping down her face and her shoulders rising up and down with each heavy breath. Mito wasn't in any better shape. They had both been running around a lot, and with the emotion running high, the mental strain was just as bad as the physical one. You talk about protecting me. You talk about how we need to be a family. But you call him crazy. You call him a monster. Tell me, where does Naruto fit into this happy fantasy of yours? Isn't he family too? Mito yelled. Minima was about to retort, but the words died in her mouth. Where did Naruto fit in? Sure, Minima had decided that Naruto was too evil to ever be accepted into the family, but he wouldn't just go away if Minima brought Mito back. Did Minima want him killed? In the heat of her anger she may have said yes, but now no matter how evil Naruto was, Minima didn't want to visit his grave. But the only other option was to let him continue on and become a god, and if that happened, then who knows what kind of disaster he would bring. Naruto was evil, Minima had no doubt about that, but was it really his fault? He had been trapped in a cage with Orochimaru as his warden. Naruto may play it off like no big deal, but who knows what he went through. Maybe Naruto could step out of the darkness and into the light. He wouldn't be the first member of their family to do it. Minima looked at Mito. She obviously cared deeply about Naruto, and convincing her to come back to Konoha would be difficult, but Minima had to convince her. Not just because she thought it would be best for Mito, but because now she believed it would be best for Naruto. If he could be surrounded by family that truly wanted to set him right, then maybe something would change. Where does Naruto fit in? Minima said after a long period of silent thinking. Right beside us. Mito was taken back by Minima's complete reversal and crouched lower into her fighting position. You're lying, you want to see Naruto dead, and even if you did believe that, Naruto's already the brother I wanted, he doesn't need to change. I have no reason to come here when we already have everything we need. Now you're lying, Minima said with a low tone. Naruto isn't at all the brother you wanted. Minima took out a book and threw it at Mito. Surprisingly, Mito dropped one of her swords to catch it because that book was very important to her. It was the book that had all the drawings of what she thought Naruto would look and be like. She hadn't brought it with her when she left because she had been going to meet the real thing. You went to see a hero. A person who would save everyone no matter what, but most importantly you wanted him to save you. But you didn't get that. Instead you got someone who only cares for himself and his small group of allies. He doesn't believe in second chances, all it takes is for someone to get in his way. Then he has no problem with killing them. You don't understand. It's your fault for attacking him, he's the victim. He's nice when it's not a battle. No, you're the one who's wrong. Minima yelled, abandoning her chains and running towards Mito. What would happen if you all died here? Who would he be nice to then? Question mark. And maybe people do attack him, but I'm sure you know that those attacks can't even be considered threats to Naruto. It's the same as them yelling that they're going to kill him, and yet when someone yells that at me, I don't go and kill them because I know they couldn't really do it. So why is Naruto? Minima was getting closer. Mito could see, but her mind had been completely shot. All she ever believed and thought about Naruto was coming into question. As such, Mito couldn't even dedicate 1% of her brain to putting up a defense. Mito thought Minima was going to hit her, but instead she hugged her. But even if all that's the case, we're a family and need to help each other. I can see that now thanks to you. So what do you say? Do you want to help us pull Naruto out from the darkness? Mito didn't give a verbal response, her brain would not allow for such a thing, but she walked her arm around Minima's back to return the hug. The broken family was slowly picking up the pieces and putting it back together. A ninja who was not part of the normal Konoha force was patrolling the sewers. He was part of an organizing Noah's route under the leadership of Danzo, and yet none of the members of the organization were fighting the serious threat to the leaf. Instead they had come down to the sewer which was hiding one of Root's many bases. They were waiting it out to see what would happen after the flames were out. Danzo wanted the Hokage seat and there was no better chance to take a grab at it than right after the battle. The ninja was patrolling to make sure no one would find out about them, at least until they were ready. Unfortunately, a group had already made their move. The root ninja heard the sound of someone landing behind him, but before he could turn around he was pushed into the sewer water. Normally he would have just surfaced and raised the alarm, but something was keeping him from swimming up. It felt like something was grabbing, but the only thing around him was water. Unable to break free of the mysterious power, the root ninja drowned. Fu watched the ninja's body float back up, then pushed downstream. A moment later Sugetsu's head popped above the water line. And another one meets a watery grave. No one's caught on yet? Fu asked. The water is still undisturbed, they have no idea we're here. Sugetsu said with an easy-going tone. That's good. Fighting Danzo head-on would be a problem. Fu said, only knowing the man from what Naruto had told her. Yeah, but he has to unlock that arm of his before he can really stand up to us. A quick assassination will be the end of that odd fart, Sugetsu said as he started swimming. How do you know all this? Fu asked. Same way Naruto does. Danzo made all kinds of dark deals with Orochimaru. I only saw him a couple of times myself, and that was only as he was passing by, but the prisoners didn't have much to do but talk about what was going on, so information got spread around. Besides, I'm sure the Hokage's son got to meet him on a more person level than I ever did. Sugetsu said as he stopped his swimming and disappeared back underwater. Anyways, let's get a move on, we've still got more ground to cover before we get to Danzo. Sugetsu's voice echoed off the walls, making it impossible to tell where he was in that mucky water. It gave off a very unnerving aura that made Sugetsu seem like a ghost. Fu was just glad he was on her side. She didn't know how she would deal with someone who could literally become part of the water. Hitomi was bleeding badly. Even with Itachi's injuries he was still kicking her ass, but Hitomi was not disheartened yet because she had gotten hits in. They were not nearly as numerous or as damaging as the ones she had received, but they proved that Itachi wasn't even close to his full potential. Hitomi knew that with Itachi's current state, being aggressive was a much better strategy than waiting for Itachi to catch his breath. Hitomi charged in with her side, swinging it wildly, trying to attack from every angle, but she was cut off when Itachi kicked her in the stomach, pushing her back. But something strange happened. Itachi staggered. Hitomi, not willing to let this chance go to waste, did a diagonal swing that cut Itachi down his chest. Itachi took a few uneasy steps back as blood dripped to the floor. Then started coughing uncontrollably. He brought his hand to his mouth, and when he removed it there was a fresh coat of blood on it. What the hell is wrong with you? Hitomi asked, having problems believing that Itachi was in this bad a state. Itachi gave a dry smile with blood running down the side of his mouth. You might find this hard to believe, but I'm dying. You're right, I don't believe that. You're telling me that one of the strongest ninja in the leaf is on the deathbed. Hitomi yelled. You can believe what you want, but it's the truth. I don't have much time left. I was supposed to be resting to get my strength back up. But since you forced me into this fight, I can feel my body dying out on me, and even if you hadn't attacked me I would have never been able to stay in this ninja life for much longer. So congratulations, you got your revenge. Even if you lose this fight, the odds are I won't make it to see the end of the day. Itachi said with a kind of final peace. So is that it after everything you've done? All the people you've hurt, you just going to fade away without any last hurrah? Hitomi said. She didn't know why, but the knowledge that Itachi was going to die no matter what made her angry. It was like her own vengeance was being taken away from her. What about all the other Uchiha kids? How would they feel knowing that the man who murdered their family just suddenly died? Would they feel satisfied? Hitomi couldn't imagine they would. If you're going to die anyways, then let me kill you. At least that way I can feel like you paid for your crimes. I can't do that, Itachi said. Revenge does nothing but drag people into the abyss. If I let you kill me, then Sasuke will swear his revenge against you and the cycle will start all over again. You say I need to pay for the terrible things I've done, yet you follow someone who is just like me. I did what I did to protect the village. Naruto did what he did to protect himself. We've both made orphans and caused people to cry and swear their vengeance against us. Tell me, do you think the children of the ninja Naruto killed, regardless of who started the fight, should have the right to kill Naruto? Hitomi was shanking. She wanted to say of course not, it was their parents' fault for attacking Naruto, but that would mean destroying the very base of why she was attacking Itachi. It was after all her parents who had started the fight against the leaf. In the end Hitomi couldn't say anything and charged Itachi for one last attempt at revenge. And Itachi stood there with a dry smile on his face awaiting the end. Hitomi's scythe was embedded in Itachi's side and had priced a lung. He would soon die. Itachi knew this, but he was content. The cycle of revenge that had cursed the Uchiha for a long time had been broken, at least for now. Sasuke would not seek revenge on Itachi's killer because she was laid out on the street with a kunai in her stomach. She was not breathing. Itachi turned back to his house and started walking. There was no reason for it, but he wanted to die in his own home. He made it to the front door, a trail of blood behind him. Right as he opened the door, he fell inside with his final breath. His upper half laid inside the threshold of his property while his bottom half laid outside. Maybe Hitomi would find satisfaction that she had denied Itachi his final wish, no matter how small. Danzo, an old man covered in bandages, was surrounded by root ninja that were ready to give their lives to protect him. Sugetsu was watching from the water. If only Danzo was a little bit closer, than one swing with his sword would end it. But as things stood right now, Sugetsu had no way of getting to Danzo without alerting every ninja there. Fu, on the other hand, was right above Danzo's head and no one was noticing. She could suppress her chakra signature completely. To most people this would be impossible, but Fu had to learn to suppress her demonic chakra, and when it was suddenly taken away, suppressing her regular chakra was an easy task. Besides that, it was amazing just how little people forgot to look up. Yet even with Fu in the perfect position to assassinate Danzo, she couldn't, because once she did, those root ninja would kill her, and Fu wasn't going to make this a suicide mission. So it was up to Sugetsu to lure them away. Sugetsu thought about it for a little bit, but couldn't think of anything, so he would just do what he did best. If Fu couldn't take on all the root ninja alone, then they would just do it together. Sugetsu jumped out of the water, slicing the nearest ninja in half. All attention was on Sugetsu, and in that moment Fu, who was not happy about the plan Sugetsu chose, dropped down and stabbed a water blade through Danzo's heart. The root ninja quickly fought back despite their leader having been killed, but in the end the shock of losing their boss caused them to become disorganized and ended in the deaths. Sugetsu tossed all the bodies into the water as Fu dressed the wounds she acquired from the battle. I can't believe you got injured. Those guys were jokes once Danzo was killed. Speaking about Danzo, did you see the look on his face? He didn't even have to think about unlocking his arm. We got lucky. If he had sensed we were coming, he would have crushed us. And by the way, you got injured just as much as I did, but your stupid body doesn't show the damage. Fu said. Yeah, whatever, but now that everyone's dead, we can search for those documents that Naruto wants. Sugetsu said, heading as he started opining random desks and cabinets that were down here. I guess you're right, we need to get that information, but we don't even know if Danzo has it or if it even exists in the first place. Fu said. Trust me, it exists, and Danzo will defiantly have it. After all, that guy is obsessed with the Sharingan. There's no way he didn't do research into its abilities. Sugetsu said, tossing a sack of paper to the side. Then I guess we better find. Fu said as she started looking around, thinking about how happy it would make Naruto if she hand delivered the information. Once he knew the concept behind the Sharingan's power, he would be able to reflect it, and then he wouldn't have to worry about some pesky Uchiha taking his throne. And if by will alone Fu found it, Danzo's research into the Sharingan. A quick skim showed that it was exactly what Naruto needed to plug the hole in his defense. Hanabi kept her distance since her father's gentle fist technique was miles ahead of hers. But Hiashi wouldn't be head of the Hyuga clan if something that simple would stop him. He shot wind out of his palms. The area of effect was wide and it was tearing up the ground, so Hanabi was forced to dodge to the side. That was all the time it took for Hiashi to close the distance. Hanabi quickly spun around, creating a dome of chakra to push Hiashi back. If he was able to close even one of Hanabi's major chakra points, the fight would be over. Hanabi dome didn't stop Hiashi for long. He created his own dome and brought it against Hanabi's. The two chakras grinded against each other. However, within a matter of seconds it was clear who had the upper hand. Hanabi's dome burst as she flew backwards. Hiashi stopped spinning and stood there waiting for Hanabi to get up. Hanabi was pissed as she stood up and wiped the blood that was dripping from her chin. It was clear by the way her father was acting that he didn't see this as an actually fight. He was treating it more as a training exercise. That would also explain why Hinata was standing off to the sidelines not doing anything. And as if to prove her point, Hiashi started talking. You've improved. I'm glad to see that your absence from the leaf hasn't been a complete waste. Hanabi growled as she did a few hand signs and a wave of water escaped from her mouth. Hiashi didn't bat an eye as he ran straight through the torrent. It looked like the water had engulfed him, but a little later he popped back at the other side with no sign of the water having affected him, with the expectation of being soaked. Hanabi tried to do another set of hand signs, but Hiashi was too close. Hanabi ended up in the situation she had wanted to avoid the most, a taijutsu battle. Hiashi attacks were lightning fast and had the precision of a surgeon. Hanabi could not keep up. She tried to fall back, but this only caused Hiashi to push his advantage. He struck several of Hanabi's chakra points before she was finally able to get away. None of them were major, and as long as Hanabi had use of her arms she could unblock them once she had an opportunity to do so, but they disrupted her chakra network nonetheless. Hanabi really had to think of a way to beat her father. She still had the Nuibari, but with Hiashi Byakugan that was no angle she could strike from that he wouldn't see. Actually there was one place, but there was no way her father would be careless enough to let Hanabi take advantage of it. Yet it was her only hope, so she had to try it. Hanabi threw the Nuibari at Hiashi and he dodged to the side no problem. Hanabi pulled of the string to have the sword return, but she adjusted it so it was in Hiashi blind stop. It got closer and closer to Hiashi's head and Hanabi dared to hope it would work, but just as it was about to hit, Hiashi brought his arm behind his head and grabbed it. Did you really think that would work? Hiashi said, sounding disappointed. No, but I think this will. Hanabi yelled as she came charging at him. Hiashi was unprepared and he was still holding the Nuibari, so he only used one hand to attack Hanabi. He closed off a lot of her chakra points, but Hanabi was still able to crash into him with her entire weight, while not a lot was still able to knock him to the ground. Hiashi barely had enough time to move the Nuibari he was holding so it wouldn't skewer him. Hanabi, however, now had an advantage and was desperate to press it. Hanabi head-butted Hiashi, causing blood to drip from both their foreheads. Hiashi was no use to this kind of fight and got lightheaded from the attack. His grip on the sword loosened and Hanabi was quick to pick it up and place it right above Hiashi's neck. You lose, Hanabi said. Oh really? Because I'm still breathing, and if you think you can get away while I'm still able to move, then maybe Hinata really should be clan head. Hiashi said, looking at Hanabi's form. She was shaking so badly that she couldn't keep her weapon steady. It was all because her chakra network was shot thanks to all the chakra points Hiashi had closed. Hanabi needed to get away and unblock them, but in order to guarantee that time Hiashi would have to be died. You can't do it, can you? Hiashi said with an emotionless look. You might have been trained by someone who could kill his family without a care, but you can't do it. Hiashi slowly brought his arm up and grabbed the sword. Hanabi knew that if he pushed it away it would all be over. She had to make a choice, but could she really kill her father? Naruto or her father, a subordinate to the strongest ninja in the world or the head of the most prestigious clan in the world, love or blood? A choice had to be made, and in the end it was. Madara ran through Kumo with the intent of gather up the Akatsuki, but that plan would be put on hold when a boulder the size of a building landed on him. Madara's head poked out of the rock to see a man with an eerie grin approaching. I see you didn't heed my warning. Warning, Naruto said, coming to a stop in front of Madara. I didn't take that as a warning, I took it as a challenge. Are you really prepared to take me on? Madara said, phasing completely out of the rock. Naruto tilted his head to the side, cracking his neck. An ancient artifact who lost to the first Hokage when he was still in his prime. I think I'll be just fine. You're also making an enemy of the Akatsuki. Madara said as if to give Naruto one last chance, but both knew that there was not going back. The Akatsuki, Naruto laughed, is done the getting destroyed in the leaf and Kumo has already pushed Kisame and Deidara back if they're not dead already. Besides, even if you somehow scrounge up the remains B's dead. The Akatsuki has lost its goal. Its reason to exist. Then the fight began. Both sides jumped at each other bringing their fists together, but instead of an explosion of power Naruto harmlessly passed through Madara. You know that really pisses me off, Naruto said trying to mess with Madara's vectors, but oddly enough he couldn't find any. This is no different from your reflection, they both keep us from being hit. Madara said. So you're saying neither of us can cause damage to the other? What a boring battle this will turn out to be. Naruto said. You're the one who started it. Madara said. But I didn't say that, I only said they served the same purpose. Madara threw a kunai and it stuck into Naruto's side bypassing his reflection. Naruto felt the pain but didn't look at all worried that his reflection had been broken. He screwed with his own chakra and the kunai disappeared. You know, if you want to trick me with a genjutsu you're going to have to be more realistic. Like show me a giant monster that breathes fire and talks like a 4-year-old crushing Kumo. The fight continued and just like Naruto predicted the fight was painfully boring. All the attacks Naruto tried to do passed right through Madara, and Madara wouldn't even attack because he would get a broken wrist if he tried. All Naruto could think to do was constantly attack Madara and maybe he would just run out of chakra using that technique, or maybe the technique itself had some sort of restriction. It didn't look like it was doing anything, but Naruto noticed that the closer that they got to the 5-minute mark the more nervous Madara was becoming and the more he tried to get away from Naruto. What's the problem, you getting scared? Madara didn't say anything but tried even harder to get away. You better do something or you're going to die. Madara couldn't get away, so he did the only thing he could. Naruto suddenly found his body getting pulled forward into Madara's eye. It wasn't long before Naruto's entire body was sucked in by the unknown vector. Naruto dropped into a strange place that was made up entirely of block and had purple tint. Madara was standing on a block that was elevated higher than the one he was on. Is this your big plan? Naruto said, spreading his arms. Do you think that if we fight here that anything will change? Madara looked down on Naruto and spoke in a very superior voice. Of course not, but I can just leave you here until you starve. But maybe I'll let you out if you swear allegiance to me. Madara expected Naruto to have a look of pure horror being forced to admit he lost, but that's not what he got. Instead Naruto looked annoyed. Is that it? Is that all you've got? Do you think you're so powerful that you can fight off starvation? Madara asked, mad that he had not gotten the reaction he wanted. Naruto's face warped from an annoyed look to a disappointed look. To think I thought I was going to be able to fight someone who was able to face off against the god of shinobi. That would have proven I was the strongest ninja alive, but instead I got you a sad excess for an imposture. Madara was taken back by Naruto's word. What are you talking about? You've lost and now you're trying to say I'm not who I say I am. If you want to be Madara that's fine, I don't really care anymore, but you're way too weak and stupid. Madara's not a one-trick pony, yet all you were able to do was avoid my attacks, and when that didn't work you sent me here. Even Minato was able to hurt me, but all you can do is lock me in a cell and run away. But I've got news for you, putting me in here was the worst mistake you've ever made, and it's something the real Madara would never do. Naruto said, pointing his arm at the man in the mask. I know how you've been phasing through everything. You've been sending your body or part of it into this dimension. So what if you figure it out, you're still trapped in here? Madara said, about ready to leave, but Naruto's laugh stopped him. If this is the best you can do, then you've got a serious problem on your hands. You're talking to the master of vectors. Anything that has mass and direction is under my control. And you better not think I'm limited to the X, Y and Z axis of 3D space. You see, I couldn't hit you because I didn't understand how it worked. But now that I know you're just changing dimension, then it becomes simple. All I have to do is take a fourth axis between this dimension and ours into account. Madara watched as the whole dimension started to shift and blur until it changed back to the Kumo. Madara was shocked. He couldn't believe that Naruto had just broken himself out of an inescapable prison. You know, I guess fighting you wasn't a complete waste, because now that I've been in both dimension I can freely move between them. Naruto said, walking closer to Madara, and to Madara's horror he took a step back in fear. Although I don't know if I'll ever have a reason to change since I can't send only parts of my body like you can, but it can't hurt to have it. Naruto then speed towards Madara. Madara didn't know what to do, so he did what he always did and sent part of his body to the other dimension. But Naruto hit him clear on and sent him tumbling back. I told you that if you didn't come up with something new that you would have a serious problem. Naruto yelled, sounding mad that Madara didn't have a different plan. I have that fourth axis now. Even if you send your body to the other dimension, I can bring back by reversing the vectors you're trying to use. Madara launched a devastating fire jutsu at Naruto, but it just came back and phased through Madara. You could hear Naruto sigh. I guess it really is over. You don't have any tricks left. What a disappointment. Naruto brought his hand up and seemed to imagine it warped around Madara's mask. Of course I can only control vectors I touch, so cyclones and rocks will still phase through you. But that's okay, reversing you blood flow will be enough. I won't check to see who you really are after you're dead if you're worried about that. If I did, it would break the illusion. At least this way I can pretend that fought with Madara, he just happened to get so much weaker with age. With that said, Naruto lunged at the man in the mask and killed him. Nagato watched Minato approach him. So you're the one who was controlling the pains? Minato said with a hateful look in his eye. I think it hardly matters what part one played in the invasion. All that you care about it that I played a part, so just go ahead and kill me. I know you want to. Nagato said, having given up after watching all his pains and Conan die. Don't worry, I will, but first I need to ask you something. Where is my son? Minato said with a hint of a hiss. So you still care about him even after he almost killed you? Nagato said. Of course I do. I'm still his father, and even if he's put in a cell for his crimes, you bet it will be a cell in the leaf far anyway from anyone who would kill him out of anger. Minato yelled. How naive, there are plenty of people in the leaf who want him died, and aren't you being a little hypocritical after all? Isn't the reason you're here to kill me is because of your anger? Nagato said, not trying to avoid his fate, just simply stating the facts. You're not my son. And he is not the son of anyone else, so don't be surprised when they offer up the same kind of bloodshed that you've offering me. Where is my son? Who knows? He was sent to Kumo, but if Kumo crushed the Akatsuki just like the leaf did here, then he could be long gone or dead. Nagato said, and not long after a kunai went through his brain. Sugetsu and Fu could only see the leaf village on the horizon now. Looks like we did it. Sugetsu said, smirking with pleasure. We got what we came here for. Now none if the Uchiha's special techniques will be a threat to Naruto. Although now that Itachi's dead, is there really any Uchiha left that could have posed a threat to Naruto? Fu asked. It's still good to have it. But I'm a little sad about the brats, look like none of them will be able to join us. Sugetsu said, although he didn't seem too sad about that fact. Just as they were about to head off, they heard a bush rustle and prepared to attack. There's still on brat who's willing to come along. Hanabi said as she shambled onto the road. Her face was covered in blood, but only a little bit if it was hers. She had made her choice and she had choosing Naruto. Let's get going, I want to wash this filth off. Oh look who's giving orders now. Sugetsu said in good fun as Hanabi walked by him. Sugetsu, who is that? Fu whispered into his ear. She had never heard Sugetsu or Naruto talk about the brats until now. She's your competition, Sugetsu said with a smile, running off to meet Hanabi. Fu blushed heavily before running off to catch the both of them. It was silent in Kumo. All the ninja would gather around a person who looked more like a shark. He wasn't breathing and his sword laid next to him without a master. The explosions had also stopped. The Kumo nin were sure that Deidara was dead somewhere if he hadn't been crushed to the particle level. Once they realized this fact, they jumped in joy. We've won. Someone yelled. There were cheers and happiness all around. Even Mei seemed to be enjoying herself, but then something struck next to Kisam's body, kicking up a cloud of dust. The Kumo nin stopped their party and aimed all their weapons at the cloud. Once it settled, they could see person with red eyes bending over to pick up Kisam's sword. Relax, the man said as if he was talking to a group of rowdy children. I'm just here because I promised I'd get Sugetsu this sword. I have no reason to fight you. Like hell you don't. You're one of the people that invaded our village. Someone yelled. A hail of jutsus and weapons assaulted the man, once again kicking up a cloud of dust. But none of them hit and none of they were reflected. Instead, above the cloud the man was hovering with 4 cyclones keeping him in the air and the sword in his hand. I have no time for you today, the man said, because I have very important business to take care of, and once it's complete I will have elevated to a new plane. The man then flew away so fast that some would question if he had never really been there and it had just been a genjutsu. Mito sat in a cell, her weapons taken and a chakra seal on her body. Even if she had given up willingly, she was still an enemy and wouldn't allowed to walk around the village freely. She had been brought to this prison after the battle had ended and hadn't seen any of her family members since, but Mito doubted that would last long. Why the gloomy look? The person who shared the cell next to her said. Mito chose to ignore him. She had nothing to say to Orochimaru's assistant. Is it because you betrayed Naruto after all he did for you, or is it because your friend Hitomi is dead? Kabuto continued. Mito didn't really care how Kabuto knew about Hitomi's death. It didn't matter. All he was trying to do was get under her skin. She was mourning her friend's death, but Kabuto had gotten it right the first time. She had betrayed Naruto. That thought would not leave her mind. She wasn't sure if what she did was right anymore. Even if Naruto's was defeated and brought back to the Leaf, the other villagers would certainly call for his execution. Mito supposed they would call for hers too, but Minato probably had enough political power to stop that. After all, the only really destructions thing she did to the major villages was captured Iwa's Jinchuriki, but that could be blamed on Deidara. But what if Naruto wasn't defeated? Would he come back and kill her for her betrayal? Mito wanted to say they had gone through too much for Naruto to kill her just like that, but she couldn't deny that Naruto didn't have much mercy for his enemies. The more Mito thought about it, more she realized that she may have screwed up big time. No matter what, it seemed that the happy family Minima described was never going to happen. Mito had been blinded by those false images. In the end, Mito was still just a kid who gave in to her emotions over logic. But there was no going back now. Mito spent a couple more hours in her cell just thinking about what would have happened had she stayed with Naruto, but her thoughts were interrupted by footsteps approaching her cell. Mito was afraid to look up, knowing it had to be one of the members of her family. When she finally did look at who had come to visit, she was shocked to see it was Naruto. Mito was about to say something, but Naruto dropped to her knees and put her head to the floor. Mito, I'm sorry, Naruto said, tears leaking into the floor. I'm sorry for being a terrible sister. I'm sorry for not being strong enough to bring Naruto back. I'm sorry for not being here when you were fighting Minima. I'm sorry for everything. Mito didn't know what to say. She never thought she'd see the day when Naruto would apologize to her. She knew that Naruto had changed from what Minima had told her, but she never expected it to be this much. You don't have to apologize, Mito said. But I do, Naruto said, standing up. I know you love Naruto more than you love anyone else in a family, yet you choose us over if. So that's why I'll promise to bring him back and make sure you and him get to live a normal life. I'll get that happy ending. Mito couldn't believe it. The look in her sister's eyes was so full of hope and determination. It was clear that her eyes could only see the world becoming a better place. It was so different from Naruto's, whose eyes had the look detachment and darkness. His eyes saw a world that was filled with violence and stupidity and believed that only a god could change its course. Which one of them saw the right world and which one was dead wrong? Mito believed that Naruto's version was more realistic, but Naruto made that unrealistic world seem so close, and because of that she started giggling. Naruto, you even more of a child than I am, but maybe, just maybe, I'll believe what you say. Naruto gave Mito a smile, a real smile, not one of those plotting smiles that Mito had seen during her childhood. I guess I am a child, Naruto said, but the good thing about being a child is you can keep moving forward without thinking about the consequences. Conniving the cages to let Naruto walk seems impossible, Mito said. That's okay, we'll just go step by step and cross that bridge once we get there. First we have to defeat Naruto, Naruto said, still holding her smile. The odds of that happening aren't high either, and if he becomes a god it might drop to 0. I've gotten a gift from Jiraiya and the toads that just might work. Just might isn't going to cut it. You'll still lose if you go and fight Naruto with the odds you have now. Then do you have anything that could raise those odds? Naruto asked, dropping her smile to look at Mito with a pleading face. Mito didn't know if she could help. She didn't even know if she'd help, but just this once she would put her faith in Naruto over Naruto. People would probably call her an idiot for relying on the sister that not too long ago she had hated, but Mito too wanted Naruto to live a normal life, and this might be the only way to do it. I'm not sure if it will have all the answers, but in my mind there is an image of a notebook that Orochimaru wrote about a certain boy. It was closed before I could read it, but if someone could go into my head and pauses that image, then just maybe we can raise our odds. I'll go tell Toussaint right away to get Inoki on it. Naruto said, walking out of the prison. Oh, and Mito, thank you. Mito didn't know why, but she felt pride in the fact she was helping her sister. It was strange she should feel horrible for betraying Naruto like this, but for some reason it felt like she was helping Naruto by doing this, although only time would tell if she was really working to make her family whole again. You're really putting a lot of trust in Naruto and that notebook. Kabuto said. What happens when you have to watch Naruto walk up to an execution platform knowing it's partially your fault? Kabuto, I know the odds of that happening are way more likely than us being a happy family, but I'm just a kid so I can only imagine a happy ending. Mito said, for the first time truly believing it. Then I'll enjoy seeing that childish fantasy being ripped from your mind. Kabuto said. Naruto was floating around his new dimension. Technically it wasn't his dimension, but since no one else that he knew of could access it, Naruto was pretty certain he could lay claim to it. He was only in this dimension because he had wanted to know if it could serve any purpose for him besides storage. That, and he was still waiting for his team to arrive at the meetup point. Sadly, both those things had yet to happen. On the dimension side, Naruto had learned a few things, but none of them were practically useful. For one, the vectors here were very simple, which was why he was floating around so carelessly. It was like swimming through water. Although there was nothing in this dimension that Naruto couldn't do in his dimension, so that was a bust. Their other thing that Naruto found was that the two dimensions shared the same time. It was strange. Naruto would have assumed that these two incredibly different dimensions would exist in different time, but no, if Naruto stayed in here for an hour would pass in the other dimension as well. This didn't have any use to Naruto, it was just interesting. The one thing that may have been helpful was the fact that this dimension was a lot more condensed. This meant that talking in step in this dimension would be a couple miles in the other dimension, but alas, while good on paper as a teleportation system, in real life it would be incredibly dangerous to use. The fact was that Naruto had no idea where he would be placed when he walked back. He could put himself in a rock or a tree. The Madara imposter must have been able to use his Sharingan somehow to make sure this didn't happen. So with all Naruto had learned, this dimension was no more use to him than a convenient storage. Naruto floated to the spot he knew he had come in at and wrapped himself back to the meeting place, and to his surprise Fu, Hanabi and Sugetsu were already there. The bad news was that Naruto appeared right where Sugetsu was standing. Sugetsu exploded into a puddle of water. Another inconvenience with swapping dimensions. If that had been anyone else they would have died, and who knew what could have happened to Naruto. What the hell? Sugetsu yelled as he reformed his body. Naruto gave him a quick insincere apologize before asking if they had gotten what he asked for. Fu nodded her head and pulled out a scroll, handing to Naruto. He gave it a quick skim to make sure it was what he wanted. Naruto smiled when he confirmed it was. This is great, you three can take a break, I'm going to read this in more detail before we move on. Naruto walked a little ways to find a good reading spot. Are you saying we just have to wait for you? Sugetsu yelled. Yes, was Naruto's simple reply as he threw a very large sword on the ground. Just take this and stop your bitching. Sugetsu stomped his feet on the ground and walked off mumbling, but not before picking up the sword. Fu and Hanabi had basically been left alone, and it was awkward to say the least. They both knew about the other's feeling for Naruto. Hanabi was pissed that Naruto had let Fu onto the team. Before, she had no one that could steal Naruto away from her, but now she had real competition, and as much as Hanabi hated to admit it, Fu had better assets than she did. The only thing Hanabi really had an advantage over Fu in was time. She had known Naruto for longer and had more experience with what Naruto liked and didn't like, which was not easy to figure out given Naruto's general apathetic attitude towards most things. So for about an hour Fu and Hanabi shot glares at each other until Naruto finally finished reading and walked over to them. Go work Fu, this is exactly what I needed, all the Sharingan powers have been revealed to me. Naruto said, patting Fu on the shoulder, earning a blush from her and an irritated look from Hanabi. Where's Hitomi and Mito? Naruto asked, just now noticing their absence, having been too focused on getting the information about the Sharingan. Well, you see, Hanabi started to say. Hitomi died fighting Itachi and Mito went back to her family. I see. I had heard that Itachi had died on my way here. I'm sure Hitomi can be happy knowing that she got her revenge. Naruto said, turning his head to look for Sugetsu. You're not going to say anything about Mito? Hanabi asked. Why should I? Mito made her choice. If she believes she can be happier in the leaf, then who am I to stop her? As far as I'm concerned, she can do whatever she wants. She just needs to know that if she decides to attack me, then I will show her no mercy, Naruto said, his voice getting darker towards the end. Besides, it's not like she had any important information on me, so there's nothing to worry about. Anyways, let's get going, we still have a ways to go before we get to that damn statue. Fu and Hanabi quickly nodded, following Naruto. A female ninja was running to the Hokage's office with what could be called the most important information on Naruto, thanks to Mito. She slammed open the doors to Minato's office, forgetting to knock, and started talking. Hokage, we finished looking through Mito's memories and we hit a gold mine. We've figured out Naruto's weakness. Then for the first time the ninja actually looked inside the room, and when she did she almost pissed herself. Inside were all 5 of the Kages along with seriously powerful ninja acting as the guards. Minato just gave her a smile. Thank you, can you please set it down in front of me? Minato said. The terrified female ninja waddled over to the table and set the file down before running out the door as fast as she could. What do you know, we were just talking about what to do about Naruto and in comes some very useful information. Said. Why don't you open it and share with the class? Minato sighed. He knew he would never have been able to avoid telling him about this, but he at least wanted to read it himself beforehand. He opened the file and started reading. It said, Dear Hokage, after going through Mito's mind, we have found a notebook she had once looked at belonging to Orochimaru. Although she did not have enough time to read it herself, her mind still had an image of the event. This notebook has provided indispensable information, so instead of paraphrasing, I'm going to write down exactly what was in the book on this file. Test subject 001, Aka Naruto, has just completed his first test. So far nothing impressive, he only merely threw a rock at high speeds to kill his opponent. I am however hopeful for the future. All the data has suggested that the operation worked perfectly. 001 has complete control over any vectors that comes into contact with his chakra, even if he doesn't know how to properly use it yet. 001 has progressed better than I had hoped. His mind has finally caught up with his chakra and he now has complete control over vectors. He has just mastered the vectors of lightning, which has given him a defense against all 5 of the chakra natures. 001 has become a little uncooperative lately. He has demanded I bring him books on just about everything or he will stop participating in my test. While I could just denied him his request and force him to participate, it could greatly skew the data, as he would most likely just sit there letting his reflection do all the work and not come up with new ways to use his vectors. So I will grant his request. After all, gaining more knowledge could only make him more powerful. 001 has read almost every book in my library, everything from basic jutsus to the history of Iwa. While I expected him to try out some of the non-vector jutsu he must have learned from those books in the tests, he has yet to do so. I wonder why. 001 has become even cockier these past few weeks. He has demanded that I tell him who his real family is. I realize now that giving him those books was a mistake. It's not the books themselves that are the problem, it's that I gave them to him. Naruto certainly is intelligent. After all, he has to be to manage his vector control. He has been testing the waters for a while now, seeing how much he could get away with. He was figuring out how important he was to me, and the unfortunate truth is he figure out the answer is very important. As much as don't want to do it in order to keep the tests on schedule, one will have to tell him. I could lie to him, but if he were to ever find out the truth, it could stop the test indefinitely, so I will just have to see how it plays out. 001 had a very interesting response to the knowledge of his family. While he did seem like he would like to be with them, he did not show any signs of anger at being taken from them. The tests have gone on smoothly with no change to 001 behavior. If I were to mentally evaluate him, I'd say he has just accepted what happened to him, so while I believe he really wants to get back to his family, he is patient and will not act out on his desire to see them. I do have a countermeasure if 001 ever does try to escape. It has to do with a ring on his wrist. It takes advantage of a certain defect I implanted into the vector control formula. It works by using his own chakra against him. This works because I made sure O1's vector control wasn't precise enough to notice the difference in individual chakra. What happens is the ring has some of O1's chakra stored in it, and when it's turned on it delivers this straight to 001. Now why would this be a problem? For normal people this wouldn't be an issue worth discussing, yet for 001 it's a crippling weakness. Normally when something comes into contact with O1's chakra it briefly touches it before O1's default setting determines it's a foreign object and reflects it. But when O1's own chakra is shot at him there's a problem. O1's reflection has determined that something has attempted to breach it, but what tried to breach it is exactly the same as it, so what's it supposed to do? A paradox has occurred. O1's chakra has just been told to reflect O1's chakra. If O1's vector control was more precise it could differentiate the chakra that had been shot at him and the chakra that is a part of him, but that doesn't happen. Instead his chakra reflects itself, dispersing the chakra that made up his reflection in the first place, leaving him defenseless, and if his chakra is continuously being shot at him then he will be unable to bring chakra to the outside of his body to control vectors. Not to mention that he loses a great deal chakra every time his reflection is dispersed. This is my countermeasure, easy to pull off but almost impossible for someone to figure out on their own. I've made a mistake. 001 escaped when the Akatsuki attacked. He should not have been able to, but I've miscalculated the growth of O1's chakra. The ring was set to replace the chakra it had stored by absorbing chakra from 001 after it shot chakra at him should he attempted to control vectors. That was my mistake. The ring would only refill once it shot, but since 001 realized a long time ago that trying to use his vectors while the ring was on was worthless, he stopped doing it. This caused the same chakra to sit in the ring for a long time. 001 is still a kid, so as he grows his chakra changes slightly as his chakra coils make more connections, something I didn't take into account. Over time the chakra inside 001 and the chakra inside the ring became different enough to be considered different chakra. This is quite a loss, but I'm sure that I can salvage it. The Kages sat in silence after Minato finished reading. They were all thinking about what to do with this information. 4 out of 5 were thinking how they could kill Naruto with it. After almost 3 minutes of being in a noiseless place, Onoki broke the silence. So when do we head out? What do you mean, we? We still haven't disused anything and he's my son, so I don't really think you busy Kages need to be involved. Minato said. I wouldn't worry about that. I'm sure all of us would be willing to clear our schedule to help you catch and execute this criminal. Said. Or don't you remember that the alliance was created to take down the Akatsuki and now there's only one member left? Minato bit his lip. There was no way he could bar them from hunting Naruto. The only thing he could do was supply his own ninja to at least try and get Naruto alive. I have a question. Gaara said, breaking Minato's thoughts. How do we know that doing this will actually work? This is Orochimaru we're talking about here. I wouldn't be surprised if this was all some big lie. If chakra has that much of a difference like Orochimaru says it does, then why is Naruto able to reflect everyone's chakra? Shouldn't he have to find the vectors for each slight change in everyone's chakra before he could reflect it? Not necessarily, Mei said, looking at her fingernails. Think of chakra as water. Water isn't exactly the same. There is salt water and pure water. Some water has more iron, more calcium, more chloride than other water. There are thousands of different kinds of water if you think of it like that. Yet for anyone using a water jutsu it doesn't matter. It must be the same way for Naruto. The changes from one person's chakra to the next are so slight it might as well be the same. That makes sense, but how would we even get a hold of Naruto's chakra? Or asked. That's easy, Onoki said. Any chakra absorbing technique should work. Even if Naruto reflects it, there would still be a brief moment where it made contact with his chakra. It would only absorb a minuscule amount, but according to Orochimaru that should be enough. So we're all in agreement. We will use this found knowledge to take down the final member of the Akatsuki. Said, looking at Minato with a satisfied look. And thus the plan to take down Naruto were underway. Almost immediately after the decision was made, Naruto location was discovered. A high-class missing nin might be able to wander around undetected from their home village, but when all 5 major villages had made it the primary objective to hunt you down, there was no escape. 2 days later, the largest single task force was created. It didn't break the record by just a little, but either. In terms of power and numbers, most people would think of it as an army, then a task force. All 5 Kages would be present along with various other highly skilled ninja. Among them was the entire Namikaze family minus Mito, and obviously Naruto, the 2 remaining Sannin, one of the 7 swordsmen, Temari, along with 200 average ninja. This was being put together to take down a group of 4 people, yet no one saw this as overkill. That's just how big a threat Naruto was. The task force moved out planning to intercept Naruto and his group, if the calculations of Naruto's route was correct, by sunrise the next day. The earth seemed to shake as they ran. Naruto heard them long before he saw them. It sounded like a herd of buffalo charging at him. It looks like we've got company and a lot of it, Hanabi said. Your 3 might want to stay back, this is way beyond the level any normal ninja can take on. Naruto said. Fu and Hanabi nodded, falling back, but Suigetsu stayed where he was. I'm not missing out on this, besides I've got to test out my new sword, Suigetsu said as he pointed to his back where 2 giant swords were crisscrossed. Suit yourself, just know that I'm not responsible if you get yourself killed, Naruto said as the army came into sight. He instantly picked out all 5 Kages and his family. They really aren't holding back. Suigetsu and Naruto stood there as the army got closer and still didn't do anything when they broke off to surround them. It might have seemed they were just that cocky, and to a certain extent that was true, but Naruto was getting a feel for them. You couldn't just smash 5 different types of ninja together and expect that they would work flawlessly without any team training. Naruto could already see some of the conflicts in the training each village had used. Kumo ninja were trying to get closer to Naruto, then the rest and the Kirk ninja were backed away from the ground, almost creating a second layer. Some ninja would bump into each other as they tried to move to a position that they believed would be the best from them. It wasn't so broken that Naruto would deem them ineffective, but they were already cracks starting to appear. I'll only ask this once, are you willing to surrender? Gaara said. No, Naruto said as he prepared cyclones behind him. Then we have no choice, today you will be killed or captured. My bet is on the former, said. Naruto didn't waste any more time and smashed his cyclones on the group in front of him. Suigetsu ran into the crowd and started tearing people up using the living sword. Kumo nin were dispatched to deal with him while a few people moved to the front to deal with Naruto. These ninja did something very odd, they shot wires at Naruto. One of them hit Naruto and was reflected. The ninja that had thrown it grabbed it and retreated back into the crowd. They seemed to be waiting for something, but Naruto wasn't just going to stand there. He joined Suigetsu and the blood ran like water. Something was strange, however. They weren't attacking Naruto. Instead they were keeping the distance. Of course there was no distance that you could be safe from Naruto. But normally they would freak out and start attacking even if they knew it was useless. Then Naruto felt something hit his chakra and then his reflection destroyed itself. Shit, Naruto said as every ninja that had pervious be passive unloaded jutsus and kunais on him. Naruto quickly focused on replacing the chakra on his feet and jumped high into the sky, avoiding the destruction below him. So they figured it out, Naruto thought. This might be harder than he thought. Then Naruto heard someone counting below him. It was a Hyuga, and when the Hyuga got to 10 he stopped and shouted, 10 seconds, that how long it takes for him to restore his reflection. The crowd nodded and Naruto hissed. Naruto landed with his reflection back to normal and started to take things seriously. He avoided the wires that were again shot at him. You really think I'll fall for the same trick twice? Naruto yelled as he crushed one of those stupid ninja into the ground. Naruto wasn't going to let them do that again. But before he could even begin his real assault, something flew past him. Naruto looked behind him to see a very liquidity Suigetsu. This sucks, Suigetsu said. Looks like you're on your own, just make sure to grab my swords when you're done. Suigetsu then started to leak into the cracks in the ground that had been caused by the battle. And then there was one, said the voice of the man who had defeated Suigetsu. One will be plenty, Naruto replied to the wreckage. Are you sure about that? said as he charged his arm with lightning and ran at Naruto. Before Naruto could even decide if he should reflect it or dodge it in cause it was another trick, the ground above his feet rose so Naruto was standing on a stone pillar. A's target was no longer Naruto, but the pillar. The pillar was no match of A's strength and it crumbled away leaving Naruto with no footing and failing directly onto A's electrocuting arm. Naruto quickly used his vectors to push him to side and avoided failing into what would have certainly been his death. But, what Naruto did land on wasn't much better. A seal lit up under his feet and in an instant it absorbed some of his chakra and shot it back. Naruto reflection ruptured and A was coming right at him with his lightning fist. Naruto realized he was going to die in that moment so his only choice was to but something else happened. A chain wrapped around his stomach and flung him around. Naruto saw it was his dear sister that was holding the chain, but he was not thankful because he was on a collision course with Tsunade. He wouldn't get his reflection back up in time. By the time he reached her he would still need 2 more seconds. He reached her just as she was pulling her arm back. The chain let go and Tsunade's fist buried itself in Naruto's face. Blood exploded from Naruto's new broken nose and his vision blurred as he was sent flying back. He tumbled on the ground picking up cuts and scrapes as he went. Naruto realized what Minima had done. She wanted to make sure he lived through this battle and the only way to do that was to capture him. She had sent him to Tsunade so she could use enough power to damage him not kill him like A was going to do. Naruto got to his feet in a less than dignified manner as he faced the army that was after him. His reflection was back up but he was badly hurt. Give up Naruto. You've lost. Minato said. Naruto looked back at him with cold eyes. You know if Tsunade had used enough force to kill me back there you would have won. The truth is I was unprepared for that. But on the flip side if you had done nothing I would have won. In other words you threw your one chance at victory away because you wanted to save me. Everyone looked at him strangely. What are you talking about? You've lost, just give up. Minato said. Naruto started laughing. If I was the old Naruto you'd be right, but you came just a little too late. I have ascended. Naruto was laughing like a maniac now, blood dripping from his nose into his mouth. You thought I was heading to become God when you intercepted me, but the truth is we were coming back. I was going to do this right when I was about to kill me but you threw me into Tsunade which threw me off, but yet you didn't kill me. Now let me show you what your mercy gets when dealing with a god. Something started to emerge from Naruto's back. At first they thought it was more of his cyclones, but that wasn't it. There were 2 of them. They were both pitch black and they took the shape of wing. They were huge, easily being 5 times the height of Naruto. There was also the pressure that the wings themselves seemed to admit. It caused even the cages to freeze up. But the worst part was only shown to the people who could see chakra. Naruto no longer had a thin chakra layer surrounding his body. He was now inside a dome of chakra that extended as far as his wings. It also wasn't just made up of his chakra, it was made up of demonic chakra as well. Once the wings had finished growing, Naruto looked at the every ninja in the group that had been sent to beat him like some kind of insect. Naruto was no longer thinking of them as enemy, instead they were pests. Calling what happened next a one-sided massacre would be given him way too much credit. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.